Hare Krishna. That Pamakyanatimandasyam Sinanshalakan Sakshvan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauvani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachai. There's a time. So we will today first discuss mantra 8, which is the last mantra of a section of 4 verses, which explains how to develop spiritual vision. And this mantra 8 addresses the absolute truth as a person with transcendental qualities. And in the paragraphs of the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes or discusses he discusses each of these qualities in these paragraphs. So, I will read the verse first, and then we will discuss. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Sapaya Shakshutram Akayam Avrinam Asnaviram Sudam Apapavidam Kavirmanisi Paribhu Svayambhu Yata Tatya Turitam Yadadakshasvatibhya Samabhya. Now the word-for-word translation. Saha, that person, Parayagat, must know in fact, Sukram, the omnipotent, Akayam, unembodied, Avrinam, without reproach, Asnabhyam, without veins, Sudam, antiseptic, Apapavidam, prophylactic, Kavihi, omniscient, Manisi, philosopher, Paribhu, the greatest of all, Swayambhu, self-sufficient, Yata Tatyata, just in pursuance of Artan, desirable, Vyadadat, awards, Sasvatibhya, immemorial, Samabhya, time. Translation. Such a person must factually know the greatest of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, and pure and contaminated. The self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes each of these qualities that so we will read the first part, the introduction, that here is a description of the transcendental and eternal form of the absolute personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is not formless. He has his own transcendental form, which is not at all similar to the forms of the mundane world. The forms of the living entities in this world are embodied in material nature, and they work like any material machine. The anatomy of a material body must have a mechanical construction with veins and so forth. But the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord has nothing like veins. it is clearly stated here that he is unembodied, which means that there is no difference between his body and his soul. Nor is he forced to accept a body according to the laws of nature, as we are. In immaterially conditioned life, the soul is different from the gross embodiment and subtle mind. For the Supreme Lord, however, there is never any such difference between him and his body and his mind. He is the complete whole, and his mind, his body, and himself are all the same. So the Lord's body is spiritual. Krishna is his body. There is no difference. But in the material world, there is a difference between our real self and the subtle and the gross body. That Krishna also spoke about this in Bhagavad Gita. If we go back to Bhagavad Gita, then we have the 4th chapter. So there, Krishna. Yeah. Krishna says, Bahunimi vyatitani janmanit stava sarana tanyam veda sarvanena atvam veti paramtavam. Supreme Personality of God said, many births both you and I have passed, but I can remember them all, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So Arjuna could not remember his previous births because he changed his body, but Krishna does not change his body. Therefore, there is no forgetfulness. That indicates, yes, a different body. And in the Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada explains that it's like a Madhurya stone, that Krishna appears in many forms, many expansions. But then Krishna becomes more precisely says, Ayopi son of Yayatma Bhutnam Ishvaropi Sampagatim Adistaya Sambhavan Atma Maya. Although I am unborn, my transcendental body never deteriorates. See, it never changes, always the same. And although I am the Lord of all living entities, I appear in every millennium in my transcendental form. So in this verse, so all these qualities are discussed of the absolute truth. Yes. And we have 8. So this is the section we are discussing, and we were reading number 8. The vision developed further and directed to Ishvara helps us to understand him. So we have heard before that this spiritual vision develops from the Kanishta to the Madhyam to the Uttamadhikar, who sees all things, events, and people with equanimity. That he sees Krishna everywhere. That he sees everything as Krishna's energy in this world. That if this vision develops further means one develops love for Krishna, then one can understand Krishna. And so here we have, in this mantra 8, we have all these qualities described, and they are here on the screen in Sanskrit. That Akayam, unembodied, and he has not a body like us, and Anashviram, without veins. It's not a biological construction, his body like ours. Ishukam is omnipotent. Nayata tatyato yachtan. He fulfills, is a fulfiller of desires of all living entities. And Paribhu is supreme. Swayambhu, self-sufficient. Sudam, antiseptic, and Apapavidam, prophylactic. We will explain that. That's very interesting what is mentioned here. So, Natasya Pratimasti. This from the Svatar Upanishad. No one can grasp him above, across, or in the middle. His name is great glory. Tasya Pratim. Baladev Vidyabhunshan translates, nothing can compare with the transcendental form of the personality of God. So his transcendental form is unique. No, that, yeah. In this verse, so all these qualities are given, that, and that's difficult to understand for us. That we have also heard contrary statements before, that that is swifter than the wind, than the mind, that is inside and outside everything. So how to understand these things? That this is from logic, Nyaya. We need a third statement to resolve two contradictory statements. Like Ravi, he does not eat during the day, but Ravi's weight is increasing. So we need a third statement to qualify that. And that's called Arthapati. A third statement is needed to resolve the first two seemingly contradictory statements. So the Arthapati is Rava eats secretly at night. That so, like, God has no form, Arupya. God has many forms, Urupya. How can we understand that? What is the Arthapati? God has no material form, but has many spiritual forms. So that explains the previous two statements. That in the Svetasvatar Upanishad is said, Apanipado javano kahitam pasyati asakshuna shindyakana. He has no eyes, but he sees. How is that? Arthapati, he has spiritual eyes. So the word body kaya has connotations that don't apply to the Lord's form, because he's separate from the real person. the soul, in our case. The body is different from the real person, the soul. And our body we have to give up in due times. So we tend to degrade the soul by stimulating bodily desires. That is sense gratification. That's a problem. The body is a product of the soul's past karma. So our body is different than Krishna's body. No, the last two qualities, Sudam. So in 10:33, 39, that Prabhupada spent a whole paragraph on this, the purport, that so in Srimad Bhagavatam, we go to the third canto, text chapter 33, that's the chapter of the rasa dance. 33, the rasa dance, text 39. I read the translation. Anyone who faithfully hears or describes the Lord's playful affairs of the young gopis of Vrindavan will attain the Lord's pure devotional service. Thus he will quickly become sober and conquer lust, the disease of the heart. I read also the purport. The extraordinary power of the Lord Krishna's conjugal pastimes is clearly revealed here. Qualitatively, the Lord's spiritual loving pastimes are the diametric opposite of material lusty affairs, so much so that simply by hearing about the Lord's pastimes, the devotee conquers sex desire. By reading pornographic literature or hearing about material romance, we certainly do not conquer sex desire, but rather increase our lust. But hearing or reading about the Lord's conjugal affairs has exactly the opposite effect, because they are the opposite nature, being purely spiritual. Therefore, it is by the causeless mercy of Lord Krishna that he exhibits his Rasa Lila within this world. If we become attached to this narration, we will experience the bliss of spiritual love and thus reject the perverted reflection of that love, which is called lust. As nicely put by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Param Dristvani Vartate. Once having directly experienced the Supreme, one will not return to material pleasures. So this is also in summary mentioned in the Krishna book. And after the Krishna book came out, devotees in the Los Angeles temple, they decided to come together once a week to discuss the dancing of Krishna with the gopis. And some had a peacock feather with them. And anyway, when Prabhupada heard this, he became very angry. He said, they will not become purified, they will become putrefied. So you must be qualified to hear these pastimes. I think before we said that a couple was asking Prabhupada to speak about the Rasa Lila, and Prabhupada said, no, you must be qualified to hear it. But they insisted. And they said, maybe you are qualified to hear about it, but I'm not qualified to speak about it. So when one has surpassed liberation and one comes to the level of Raganuga Bhakti, which should only be practiced after liberation, the heart is pure, then only one can engage in hearing and discussing the gopis. Before, if your heart is full of lust and you hear about the gopis, it will be very offensive. and it will have the opposite effect. But Krishna is Sudam. Sudam, that's the point. He's pure. And when we have contact with the pure, then we become purified. We chant the holy name. Krishna is the holy name, and Krishna is pure. And therefore, by chanting the holy name, we become purified. But the holy name manifests only its full potency of purification for us if we have the appropriate mood of surrender and avoid the 10 offenses and are respectful for devotees, respectful for the holy name, respectful for the scriptures. So that is required. So Krishna will purify us. But of course, then we have a few other qualities, and that is Krishna is pure, that's Sudam, but he's also Apapa Vidam at the end. That Sudam and Apapa Vidam. Sudam, Srila Prabhupada translates as antiseptic, and Sudam as prophylactic. So what is that? How do we purify our subtle body? Krishna says, Man mana. Think of me. So if we have, because the purpose is to get liberation and then develop love of God. So how are we going to become liberated? From what do we need to become liberated? From the subtle body. Making spiritual advancement means purifying the subtle body. So the subtle body has 3 aspects: mind, intelligence, false ego. So how are we going to purify the mind? The answer of Krishna is we purify the mind by mana, hearing about Krishna, thinking about Krishna. When we think about Krishna, our mind becomes purified. Mana. And how are we going to purify our intelligence? That by hearing about Krishna, by hearing Bhagavad Gita, by hearing Bhagavatam, our intelligence becomes purified. And by making plans in Krishna's service, our intelligence becomes purified. So again, thinking of Krishna. If we have to put Krishna constantly in the subtle body, in the mind, and use our intelligence to serve Krishna and to act in a way that we always think of Krishna. And we think of Krishna. Krishna is antiseptic. Our mind becomes purified from lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, envy. So Krishna is the purifier. He is Sudam, pure, and is antiseptic. So always think of Krishna and never forget him. These are the most important instructions in terms of sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is meant to think of Krishna and never forget him. So that is a very important instruction. And is prophylactic. What does that mean? Prophylactic means it's like a vaccine. A vaccine protects you against diseases. So if you have Krishna in the mind, he acts like a vaccine. When you think of Krishna, no new contamination can come in. That is important. We are protected against new contamination when we think of Krishna. So yes, these two things, thinking of Krishna, and that so Krishna purifies us. He is the purifier. When our mind is purified and our intelligence is purified, then the false ego stops to exist. You act, you have become a devotee. You act as a devotee of Krishna. And then the spiritual body is spiritualized. The material spiritual body is gone. You killed it. And then we don't take birth again. So we have to come to that point, purifying our subtle body. That and only Krishna has these qualities of Sudam and Apapa, Vidam. That yes. That so there are other qualities discussed in this verse, like Sukram is omnipotent. And Prabhupada explains he can receive an offering everywhere. He has everywhere his hands. That yes. And again, as in previous purpose, Prabhupada speaks about Arshavihra. Arshavihra, or the deity form, that Srila Prabhupada mentioned, is at the same potency as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That because the Arshavihra is meant to accept our service, that we discussed last time. That yes, and so we have gone to nearly all the aspects of this purport, and now we will start a new section. First, the new section is mantra 9. That 9. That just a moment. So I'm not seeing. Yeah, that's 9. So where are we? We covered already the 2 first sections, and now enter the middle section, where in 3 verses, right and wrong vidya will be discussed. Vidya, knowledge for understanding Ishvara. That's, like I said before, this Shis Upanishad is enigmatic, puzzling. So we will see in the words vidya and avidya in verse in mantra 9. They have another meaning in verse 10 and also in verse 11. And that and so after that we will speak about the next session next week for right and wrong worship. That worshipping the right worship or the wrong worship, Sambhuti or Sambhuti. And at the end, were the prayers to Ishvara to reveal himself. So here we have these 3 mantras. And the words avidya and vidya have different meanings in these mantras. Avidya in text 9 means knowledge which is ignorant, or the ignorant pursuit of sense gratification. It's ordinary that people in this world want sense gratification and use their intelligence for that, this knowledge. And vidya in verse 9 means knowledge for pursuing sense gratification, like in Karma Kanda, there is in the Vedas knowledge for pursuing sense gratification. Now in text 10, the vidya of text 9 is called avidya in text 10, because knowledge for pursuit of sense gratification, that brings us down to the material platform, and real vidya is knowledge for progressing in our Krishna consciousness. And then in text 11, that's interesting. We have 2 kinds of knowledge, knowledge for bodily maintenance and knowledge for pursuit of Krishna consciousness. And the verse will say you need both to advance spiritually. Knowledge for bodily maintenance and knowledge for pursuit of Krishna consciousness. That is interesting. Anyway, if you don't get that right now, we will discuss that in each of these verses. But you understand the puzzling nature of this Upanishads. It's for intellectuals, that avidya and vidya has different meanings, and you must find out the meanings to understand it correctly. So in text 9, we will read text 9 first again. Andam tama pavishanti ye vidyam upashate tatobuya ivate tamo ya uvidyayam rataha. Andam, gross in ignorance, tama, darkness, pavishanti, enter into, ye, those who, avidyam, nations, upashate, worship, tattaha, than that, bhuyaha, still more, iva, like, te, they, tamaha, darkness, ye, those who also, vidyayam, in the culture of knowledge, rataha, engaged. Those who engage in the culture of nascent activities shall enter into the darkness of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. So those who are engaged in the culture of nascent activity, so that's here, and those engaged, worse are still those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. So here, vidya is worse than avidya. How can we understand that? Vidya is worse. That avidya, yeah, avidya in this verse means the ignorant pursuit of sense gratification, like everyone in this world no spiritual goals, but they want sense gratification. And they don't follow the scriptures to do that, and so on, and that, and they don't mostly have the proper knowledge. But those with vidya, how to get, how to increase one's sense gratification, it's worse. We see that in the material world is a lot of knowledge to increase one's sense gratification. So many machines, Kali Yuga, so many machines that cars and airplanes for going on holidays and so many machines. But people, they can control their machines, but due to stress, they have uncontrolled minds. It has become worse that now so everyone is full of stress in Kali Yuga, that because of their vidya for sense gratification. It has made everything worse. The avidyam upashate, that text 9, paragraphs 2. Avidyam upashate is caused by forgetfulness of the Issa Vasya principle. That not sure. Yeah, the second paragraph. As far as vidya is concerned, the first mantra is explained very clearly that Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, and that forgetfulness of this fact is ignorance. So they forget the Isavasya principle. The more a man forgets these facts of life, the more is in darkness. In view of this godless civilization directed to so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the mass of people are less educated. And then we have the Vidyayam Rataha. Vidyayam Rata. That is godless modern education. Irreligious materialist Srila Prabhupada speaks in a purport here at the end of this Vidyayam Rataha. The Vidyayam Rataha means those engaged in the study of the Vedas. The so-called students of the Vedas are condemned herein because they are ignorant of the actual purpose of the Vedas on account of their disobeying the Acharyas. They are following the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, the flowery section of the Vedas to get sense gratification and go to the heavenly planets. So they are ignorant of the actual purpose of the Vedas. The purpose is the Vajram edition, Vishnu, Matasmiti, Hyanam, Apamsa, Vedasa Sarvam Amrita Vedya. Purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. But they are ignorant of that purpose. Such Veda Vardaratas search out meanings in every word of the Vedas to suit their own purposes. That they do not know the Vedic literature is a collection of extraordinary books that can be understood only through the chain of disciplic succession. So one must approach a bona fide spiritual master in order to understand the transcendental message of the Vedas. That is the direction of the Mukunda Upanishad. The Vedavata people, however, have their own acharyas, who are not in the chain of transcendental succession. Thus they progress in the darkest region of ignorance by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. They fall even further into ignorance than those who have no knowledge of the Vedas at all. And then Srila Prabhupada speaks about the Maya Paritagyan. It's similar to the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Srila Prabhupada speaks about 4 pious people who take to Krishna consciousness and 4 impious people who does not take to Krishna consciousness, who are averse to it. That is the Muda who works very hard for sense gratification. And then you have the second is Naradam. And the Naradam, politically and socially developed, but no clue of the goal of life. And then you have those who are asuras against the Supreme Lord, and the Maya Paritagyan. The Maya Paritagyan class of men are self-made gods. Such men think that they themselves are God and that there is no need of worshipping any other God. They agree to worship an ordinary man if he happens to be rich, but they never worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such men, unable to recognize their own foolishness, never consider how it is that God can be trapped by Maya, his own illusory energy. If God were ever entrapped by Maya, Maya would be more powerful than God. Such men say that God is all-powerful, but they do not consider that if he's all-powerful, that there is no possibility of his being overpowered by Maya. Just a moment here. 9. So yes, let's recap what we went through. See here, that is mantra 9, paragraphs 5 to 8. Paragraphs 5 to 8. So the Vedavata so godless modern education, irreligious, materialist. So modern godless education. This is the 4th paragraph of the mantra commentary of Srila Prabhupada. To be in ignorance is bad. To be in ignorance and claim to be in knowledge is worse. And Prabhupada says these are the non-theistic scientists. To be in ignorance and claim to be in knowledge and to condemn real knowledge as ignorance is worse. The atheistic scientists. So the underlying principle of today's technological advancement is avidyam upashyate, Prabhupada says. And then we were speaking about the Vedavatarata, religious materialists. These are the karmakandis. And the karmakandis, they are described in the Gita 2:42-43. It's there where Krishna tells Arjuna, because Arjuna said before, yes, when he gave the arguments for not fighting, he said, when I die on the battlefield, yeah, I will go to hell for killing my relatives. I will not go into heaven. But Krishna replies, yes, that no, the scriptures say if you die on the battlefield, you go to heaven. And if you win the battlefield, you will enjoy a flourishing kingdom. But he says, after that, Krishna, Arjuna, do not be attached to the flowery language of the Vedas, of this going to heaven. That's just be transcendental to it. Don't do that. So that's in 2:42 and 43. And in 9, 20, and 21, in the 9th chapter, Krishna speaks again about this karmakandis, this Vedavataratas. And there he says, yes, these karmakandis, they want to go to heaven, they want to enjoy the samaras, but they have to come back. It's a useless endeavor. Why is it a useless endeavor? Because that is not the purpose of the Vedas. They mistake a side issue in the Vedas as their ultimate purpose. They misguide people. They misinterpret the Vedas. Because they are misguiding people, they are going to the darkest regions. They believe in God and religion, but they think that the purpose of religion is to provide sense gratification. And we have in Krishna book the stories of the Brahmins and the wives of the Brahmins. These Brahmins were performing these ritualistic activities, these offerings to go to heaven. And it must be done perfectly. A little error and you don't get the result. So all the details of the sacrifice are very important. And then the cowherd boys came to ask them for food for Krishna and Balaram, and they just didn't reply. This go away. This is serious business here. So they were thinking Krishna and Balaram is a side issue. But later they understood their offense. Just this is the fate of Adarata. Then the Maya Paritagyan. So again, this is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. 4 categories of impious people. Namam duskritina buddha pravacyanti naradama. Maya pritagyanasram pavam ashrita. So Maya has stolen their knowledge of the Mayavadis. The knowledge, most are Mayavadis, and they claim to be God. The monists say that everyone is one. They claim to be God, but Prabhupada in the purpose writes, they cannot explain if they are God, why they came into this world under illusion that God God is brought into illusion. Doesn't make sense. But yes, but there are also Brahmavadis. They are not Mayavadis. Brahmavadis, they don't know about Bhagavan. And you find these Brahmavadis in the Bhagavatam. That the sages came together and they were discussing who is supreme. Is it Brahma? Is it Vishnu? Or is it Shiva? And they gave an assignment to Brihu Muni, who is the son of Brahma, to find out who is supreme. So they don't know who is supreme. That's some other Brahmavadi. So the idea that Brahman is the absolute truth. Brahmavadis do not know about the Lord, and they do not offend the Lord. What is offending the Lord? Avajananti mamuda manishim tan ashritam. Krishna says, these offenders think that I've become an ordinary human being. That they don't know Krishna's nature. That so they are not offensive. These Brahmavadis, they just do not know about the Lord. But their spiritual advancement is klesha. It's very difficult when you don't know Krishna is the goal. But the Mayavadis, they imagine, they imagine Bhagavan to be a temporary manifestation of Brahman, Avajananti Mamuda. The Mayavadis think that the material manifestation is illusion. They imagine that you need to go beyond Bhagavan. Such people, Krishna say, all their pursuits are baffled. So it gives a disastrous understanding of the Vedas. Sanatan Dharma is different. It's God's personal descent. So, yes. So the misconception of materialist and monism. Materialism mistakes the counterfeit note to be the real. Counterfeit note is the real. So they think that the temporary activities, the temporary material activities are the essence of life. But so the materialist thinks that the counterfeit note is the real. But the monism, they think that the real note is the counterfeit note. They say eternal spiritual activities are illusion, they say. That one has to go beyond the Lord's pastimes, which they consider Maya. Ultimately, God has no form. And Prabhupada, at the end of the purport, and we read that, they cannot answer the question why God becomes under illusion. So this is the introduction of mantra 9. And so next week we have another 9 mantras to discuss. So I would leave it by this introduction of mantra 9 for today. And if there are any questions, please. So if there are no questions, then we continue Monday. Yeah. Anandita. Yeah. But then we will.
I had a few questions I cannot recall right now, but next week I will sure gather all my questions in the, up to verse 9. So I will ask. So one question is that in one of the mantras, Prabhupada mentions about both communist and capitalist. And you have also explained, but I want to understand it in more detail because here, there Prabhupada condemned both capitalist and communist. Both are not going to be happy with their own policies. I just want to understand what Prabhupada wanted to make us understand. Okay.
Yeah, that I will try to repeat this again. I will try to explain it by telling a story, the history of the fall down of Shringa, the Brahmins. So we have that pastime in the first canto. Shringi is the son of Shamika Rishi, and he has become puffed up. He's a powerful son of a Brahmin, but he has become puffed up. So this Prabhupada explains is the beginning of the fall down of the Brahmins. Because when a Brahmin is not humble, then the Kshatriyas cannot stand that. They cannot stand that someone thinks I'm better than you because of their mode of passion. And therefore, they rejected the Brahmins after the fall down of Shringi. And so they start to act on their own, the Kshatriyas, without guidance of the Brahmins, without guidance of the scriptures. So they were acting according to their sense gratification. But the Vaishyas, they were thinking, okay, they are acting now for their sense gratification. So who is providing the sense gratification? We have the capital. We have the food, we have the wealth, everything. So we will rule and divide with our capital and favor some Kshatriya and this favors some another one. And that is how capitalism was born. That is capitalism. But that capitalism, that everyone has the possibility to use his talents for sense gratification in so many ways but yes, only a few of them get the higher sense gratification and they are also not happy. They are frustrated. It leads to frustration by finding his sense gratification. It's only a few who get the wealth. They did a research that's 10 years ago already, but at that time, I think 340 people of the entire world, 340 people owned 50% of all the wealth. That's a problem. Those who do not have wealth, the laborers, the Sudras, they don't agree. and they start a revolution. And that was the beginning of communism. Give the power to the people. The people possesses everything. Let's divide among us. But it also didn't work. Because people need a stimuli to use their talents and get a result. But if everyone gets the same result, it's divided without rewarding their talents. Yes, then it leads. So in that communistic system also, there is a privileged group who gets still more. And people remain dissatisfied because they cannot express themselves sufficiently. Not the talented are not rewarded, frustration. So that is the basis of Srila Prabhupada criticism. Only the Varnashram system, everyone is satisfied. There is no stress. Everyone is engaged according to his nature, so can get full satisfaction in what one does. And the Vaishyas are taking care of everyone's food. That's not a problem. The Brahmins, free education, that's not a problem. The Kshatriyas, protect everyone, not a problem. And you have a peaceful society. So that's why that the Vedic model is superior. And that is more or less the basis of Prabhupada's criticism on all these social systems, capitalism and socialism, communism. It is not perfect. It leads to distress, dissatisfaction at the end. That we can go in details, but that is the basis. Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj, it really helps. So in both the systems, the communism and the capitalism, in both the systems, there were groups. In capitalist also, like you said, 340 out of the owned them to more than 50% of the whole wealth. So they had also groups, some were rich and some were not rich. And in communism also some were talented and some were not. So in both the systems there were groups, so that due to which they were not satisfied with the system, right?
Yeah, sure. That anyway, it's not that we need to go into a political discussion of that. The points Prabhupada makes are very clear. It's not, Prabhupada does not say that to criticize, but to inspire everyone to come to the spiritual standard. Spiritual standard means, Varnashram means satisfied materially and making spiritual advancement. Because you are peaceful, you can make spiritual advancement more easily. That is the point. Yeah. Yes. Mandaleshwar.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandapanam.
Hare
Maharaj,
Krishna.
this Varnashram system is practical in this present condition. Does it works?
Yeah, in Kali Yuga, this Varnashram system is not there. That's very clear. But the principles behind we can apply. Acting according to our psychophysical nature, and going to the ashrams. And we try to apply that in our movement. individually. That's why Prabhupada said, yeah, my work is unfinished. He said it to Bhakti Charamaj at night. That I've done 50% of my work. The other 50% is Varnashram. So especially today, to protect our society, we need to develop that within our society. Because you see, just to get pure water, pure air, pure food, it's not available anymore in this world. Unless we cultivate it ourselves, and then the contamination is minimal. So therefore, the development of Varnashram is gaining importance for us as Kali Yuga progresses. That it becomes just a means of survival in the near future for us to have our own farms and our own communities which are self-sustaining. Because the world becomes really habitable. It's mentioned in the 12th canto, people will go to the countryside and escape from this whole system. Yes, it's different. I'm here for the moment in Belgium, Radadesh, which is in the countryside, far from the cities, and it's very peaceful here in the forest. When I'm here, I'm recuperating. But when you are in the cities and all these things, it becomes very difficult. You become sick just by the pollution and so on. So it has its importance to organize a life of simple living and high thinking. But there are a few points I have understood. Others may have understood other points. Yes, Mother Anandita.
Maharaj, can I ask one or two more questions if you have time?
Yeah, sure.
Maharaj, in NOD, we have just finished this Dutch unit last week, and here that in the 64 limbs of Sadhana Bhakti, Srila Goswami nowhere has nowhere mentioned about Varnashram Dharma, because and also the reference was given. I'm sorry. The reference was given of Ramananda Rai also, that when he mentioned about Varnashram Dharma, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also refuted. So my question is that since NOD is for our practice, right? For the devotees, we have to practice as per NOD, and but there nowhere Varnashram is there, and you also mentioned like we can at least change, we can bring a change in our community. That we can do. We cannot change the whole world. So in our community, when initially Guru says that every disciple should be engaged as per their psychophysical nature, once they are advanced, they can be engaged anywhere because they take it, they can do any seva, I mean to say. So my question is that why Varnashram Dharam, why did Prabhupada say that I have left the work 50% unfinished in terms of Varnashram when it is not given in the Sadhana Bhakti?
That Sureshwar Prabhu, this is 20 years ago, he got by the GBC the mission to find out Prabhupada's viewpoint on Varnashram. And he gave seminars on it, beautiful seminars. But a few things I took away from that. First, in the beginning, he did not give so much importance on Varnashram. That came later. It came through the years. He gave more and more importance. Why is that? The process given by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion, these 64 items, they are, yes, very important. It's the basis of our spiritual advancement. That is true. But Prabhupada saw that, especially for the Westerners, it became very difficult to follow. And some fell away, some had difficulty to keep up their sadhana. So Varnashram is like when you sit in the car, you have a safety belt. It's like a safety belt. Because following Varnashram brings one to goodness. And from goodness, it's more easier to practice Krishna consciousness. And therefore, he saw that there were so many difficulties. And out of compassion, he wanted to get his Varnashram Dharma going on, so that still, if they didn't follow perfectly the sadhana, that they still will be engaged according to Varnashram Dharma and be in goodness. So that was one concern. That another concern that for Prabhupada in this regard certainly was that we also implement Varnashram Dharma because devotees need to be engaged according to their psychophysical nature. And it's really ideal to do that. It does not mean that if we can engage ourselves according to our psychophysical nature under the instruction of a spiritual master, okay. But some will have difficulties to do that. And therefore, it's good to create activities for that. I know my spiritual master, Bhakti Maharaj, he wanted always to create businesses, activities called Vinna restaurants, so that they would be busy in a Krishna conscious atmosphere. He wanted that. I must say he was many times not successful, but he didn't give up to pushing that forward. That to create a protective environment for the devotees, because when they work outside, they become entangled more easy and so on. And therefore, that is also a reason. Already 20 years ago, I was in Hungarian farm, and it's very nice there. There's no electricity. And they are building. They created their own building company for building houses. And they're small houses, and in the middle of the house you have an Hungarian stove but that is with this tiles, heating tiles around. And they heat it, but there is a wall of the heating system in each room. So they are heating all the rooms and even upstairs with that. They are attending Mangalarti. They have their temple, and the temple roof is made of glass. And from the moment there is no electricity, it's also, the whole temple is heated with oil lamps in the morning. And it gives such a peaceful atmosphere. And then but with the first sunlight, the temple is full of light. It's so constructed, and it's so peaceful. And they have their own vegetables. They have their own cows. They have their own forest for wood for heating. practically completely self-sufficient. And neither each devotee has their department, and it's so peaceful that every time I go there, that yeah. Anyway, that is what I could say on Varnashram. A few points I made. There are many more points Sureshwar Prabhu made. That, but yes, it's important that, of course, the 64 items of devotional service are more important, but it's like a safety belt, and it's more helpful. It's supporting. It has a supporting function. It's still external, but we need some peace to perform and think of Krishna. That yeah. Good. I hope this helps. And thank you.
Yes, Maharaj. After reading, while reading, and indeed this question was really bewildering me, that why ashram. So it was been carried from there to till now, and you answered it so nicely. So the safety belt point I really appreciate, and I think when the community will have those that type of farmhouses, on the natural system, then I think the world would come and see that how all can live without the material advancement. How one can be very peaceful.
Yes, sure. These farm projects, also the eco village and so on, they are studied by many people. That's interesting. Good.
I've seen one video recently. I think Sachidanand Swami Bharat. I forgot the name. I forgot the name of the place also. There was a community. There is also a community of 200 people, and the video was shot by some some news agency. It was not from the ISKCON. So then they will see that people still can live on the natural systems. Then I think the world will come forward. And one more question is there. Is that in the mantra 9 you have shown Vidya and Avidya? So
can you speak a little louder, because I've really difficulty to hear.
Okay, just a second. Now am I audible?
That's much better.
Sorry. Actually, you mentioned in the mantra 9 about Vidya and Avidya. So in Bhagavad Gita, we have a tutor has explained to us that anything of any knowledge of this material world is avidya, unless that is utilized in the service of Krishna, then it becomes vidya.
Yeah.
Is it right?
Yeah, that will be the meaning in mantra 10, the next mantra.
Okay.
We'll take that meeting. That's for Monday.
Then, okay.
Good.
Okay, then I will ask the question. I will ask later then. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare
Thank you so
Krishna.
much.
Have a good weekend. I'm looking forward to see you on Monday. On Monday, I'm in another place at the Belgian coast at the North Sea. But hopefully everything goes well, and I see you then. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
प्रभु जी हम लोगों का पेपर संडे को है ना? कितने बजे? 7:30 बजे, 8 बजे? आप म्यूट पर हो.
7:30 बजे माता जी, परसों ही.
7:30 बजे बिठा दोगे 8 बजे से?
7:30 बजे माता जी सेटिंग शुरू कर देती हैं, जो माता जी लेती है ना कि स्क्रीन आपकी दिखे दो, उसमें 15-20 मिनट लग ही जाते हैं.
नहीं, हमें पता है. I'm so used to, क्योंकि अभी मैं इस यूनिट इंग्लिश बैच में फर्स्ट दूंगी ना एनओडी का. पहले तो हुआ था मेरा हिंदी वाला में. ठीक है. ओके. हरे कृष्णा. थैंक यू सो मच. प्रणाम.